Welcome. My name is Chris Velarde. I am class of 1995. I'm a recovering TV news guy, and I'm the Director of Digital Engagement in the Office of Alumni Engagement. You're going to hear from some rock star alumni tonight. We have a lot at Syracuse, and the folks that you are going to hear from tonight have some great stories to share, some really important advice to give. We're going to hear from Christopher Green. He is a manager at LinkedIn. He's really going to give us some great advice about using LinkedIn as a tool to network, to meet people, to make connections, to maybe find that next opportunity. Syracuse University trustee Lisa Fontanelli is with us tonight. She's a retired managing director for Goldman Sachs. She is so well connected to our university, and we appreciate her being with us. Amanda Quick is with us tonight. She is an associate at KPMG, member of the Generation Orange Leadership Council. She'll talk a little about that if you don't know what the GOLC is. Also, Jade Daniels is here. He's the co-chair of the Syracuse University Alumni Club for New York City. He's also a newlywed, so we congratulate him for that, and we appreciate him being with us. This event really is a perfect example of a collaboration, a partnership between the Alumni Club in New York City and SU in NYC, our Office of Alumni Engagement in New York City. So you're going to hear from Pam Mulligan, who is the Executive Director for Alumni Engagement in New York City, and from Pauline Saracini, who is the Assistant Director for Alumni Clubs and is based here in Syracuse with me. So let's start with Pam. And Pam, I know that you wish that this were something that we were doing at Lubin House. I know that you wish you were welcoming people to our great facility in Manhattan, but it's still great to be able to get people in a Zoom room together.
Oh, I do, Chris. I so miss Lubin House and the energy. I mean, as all of you know, there's few locations on the planet that compare with the energy, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the opportunities per square mile that New York City has. The New York metro area also has Syracuse University's largest alumni base in the entire world, making it alive with orange spirit and rich with a huge roster of programs. Our Office of Alumni Engagement in New York City certainly has thousands and thousands of alumni to engage with. More than 50,000 New York City alumni open doors to SU grads in the world of the arts, in entertainment, in finance, in architecture, amongst many others. New York City is also the home base of our SU students, the largest concentration of SU students in the world. We have immersive semester-long learning experiences in New York City, albeit they're all online this year, our New York City experiences from VPA's Tepper semester, Newhouse in New York City, and SU's architecture program, all based out of the Fisher Center, which is on 31st and Madison. And we have tons of alumni programs, events, opportunities at the home of Syracuse University in New York City, the Joseph I. Lubin House, located at 61st Street between 5th and Madison. And myself and Ali Hojos, we're both located on the second floor when we're not in a international pandemic. We are there to typically greet you. And as Chris said, we would have loved to have greeted you there tonight. But we're close partners with our New York City Alumni Club, which Jade is the co-chair of. And our alumni clubs are led by Pauline Saracini, who's the Assistant Director of Alumni Clubs. And I want to turn this over to Pauline at this time. Pauline?
Thanks, Pam. News, everybody. I'm in Florida, and there's a wicked thunderstorm going on right now, so hopefully I won't cut out before I get through my little spiel here. I just want to let everyone know we have 32 regional alumni clubs and many groups all around the country, and they love to help each other. Once you're in the Orange family, you have lots of relatives. So please be sure to reach out, connect. We love it. We do wish we were doing it in person. That's the best part of my job, is traveling around the country and meeting alumni. But we're making do, and we've had some great events with the clubs. I want to thank Jade Daniels, who's the co-chair of the New York City Club, one of the co-chairs, And this was his idea, and he really worked hard to pull it all together and get our great speaker. And so I am going to turn it over to Jade, who is an MBA grad from 2019 and currently a lead IT analyst at Longo Health. So you're up, Jade.
Yes, Pauline, thank you. Pam, thank you. Chris, everyone in the chat, thank you. First, I want to say I'm glad that everyone is safe and able to make it. Not only has this been a tough 2020, I would say the last 5 months for everyone with COVID, you know, the social injustice and unrest, but also just the storms that we just had, you know, in New York City and Florida and all over the country. So as Pam said, we have the largest alumni base in the world, right? In New York City. I mean, it's fitting. So one thing that she said that I just kind of miss is the Lubin House, right? So what does it mean to be orange? Being orange means being a family, right? Being together, right? We're all used to either being on campus, whether we're being virtual, whatever the case may be, we're used to coming together. What our club focuses on, and as Pauline said, I am the co-chair. My co-chair is not here tonight because of work, Claudia, so definitely want to give her a shout out. But what we wanted to do and instill in the club is make sure that we bring that family community from Syracuse into New York City, right? That's very important. So what we've done over the last few years is a lot of game watching. You know, we participated in some walkathons. We did toy drives for the kids. We did, you know, movie events, networking events. We're able to do just a robust of various events. Of course, that can happen in the near future. So what we've done is work closely, you know, with Pauline and Pam and figured out how to pivot. Hence, we're all figured out how to use Zoomland is what I call it, right? We all figured it out, we've mastered it. So what we want to do with the club, again, is focus on you. Hence, what we're talking about today is how can we use, you know, LinkedIn? How can we use Zoom? How can we use the resources that we have, you know, in pulling other alumni and making sure that we're all coming together? This is a tough time for all. And we just want to make sure that we're there for you. So what we want to focus on in the next year, right? And I say the next year because the future is unforeseeable. No one knows what's going to happen. What we want to focus on is, again, how can we have virtual events that fit our alumni needs, right? So Pam, who we were speaking before, there was an art event right before this, right? And there will be an art event for the rest of the month, which is amazing. The artists are great, and the artists actually had a great story. I won't get into it right now because of time, but that's an event that we will partner in. Mentoring, right? So I know we have folks here from 15, right? Dimitri, we have Kenny McDonald here from 20, graduated in 20. So mentorship is something that we want to be there for and support, whether you want to get in healthcare IT like I am, or you want to get in finance, whatever the case may be, we want to make sure that we're there for that. We also want to build relationships, right? And bridge the gap, you know, for the 90s, the 2000s, the 80s, wherever you're from, we want to make sure that we're able to bridge that gap, you know, so that everyone could connect. The last thing I want to leave with is a quote, and it says, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." Having everyone take time out on a Thursday night when you've been stuck in the house and coming to connect means that we're ready for change. We're ready to grow our orange family. And again, I am excited. I told everyone before this, I was waiting for this day, and I'm just happy to see everyone. I'm happy to connect, and there's nothing else I could say. So please follow us on Instagram. It's Big Apple Orange, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. We will send that email out. Chris will send that email out. We'll have all the links, and we look forward to connecting. So Chris, I hand it back to you.
All right, Jade, thank you. It is an orange family, and we're glad that you're all here with us tonight. And glad, Jade, that you're leading folks in New York City. That's what it's all about. And we have to get past the situation that we're kind of stuck in. All right, let's talk about LinkedIn. That's what we're here for first tonight. And it is our pleasure to bring Chris Green in to talk about LinkedIn, because let's face it, I'm just going to speak for myself here. I think that there is this group of people that are kind of these LinkedIn pros. They know what they're doing. They know how to navigate it. And the rest of us are kind of like, I'm on it, but I'm not sure how to use it. Tonight, after Chris is done, I'm confident that we're all going to say, oh, all right, now I can be one of those LinkedIn pros too. So Chris, let us know what you know. And again, if any of you have questions as Chris is going, please put them in the chat and we will get them to him and he can answer them for us. So Chris, take it away.
Perfect. Chris, thanks for the introduction. That was quite nice of you. We'll see what you guys learn tonight. I'm hopeful that you guys will learn a lot. Before we start, Jay actually reminded me about this. I recommend that everybody find each other on LinkedIn. So anyone that's in this meeting right now, go on your LinkedIn page, look at everyone's name, connect right now. All right. Your network is your net worth. All right. That's going to be a key thing we talk about today. Like your network on LinkedIn is going to help you for a lifetime. So I'm going to share my screen. As I do that, as Chris mentioned, my name is Chris Green. I work at LinkedIn, been there for the past 18 months. I am a grad of the MBA program, 2020. So I just finished that up recently. And I'm here in New York City. So right here in the heart of Manhattan, living in Harlem. So what we'll talk about today, we'll go through how to rock your profile, right? How to make your profile, how to make your brand stand out on the LinkedIn platform. All right, so we'll spend time getting to know about LinkedIn, the history of the company a little bit, why LinkedIn matters to you, like why should you be on LinkedIn, why is it useful? Well, then we'll spend a good portion talking about your profile, how to build that up, how to set your profile apart from the others on the platform. And then I'll do a little bit of a deep dive into some key features in LinkedIn that you can use to really expand your network. All right, and I told Chris before this, if there are any questions, put them in the chat, ask away. This is a good time to have dialogue, right? If I'm going to be your expert, ask me now, but please find me on LinkedIn. I want to share my network with you and likewise. All right, we're in this together. So getting to know LinkedIn, all right? So LinkedIn is essentially, it's all about you. It's all about the end users, all right? We're not successful without your network ultimately. So that's what we focus on at LinkedIn, all right? And so what we want to look at is, hey, what's our vision as a company, right? That's how we ground ourselves every day. So looking at that, our vision shows, hey, we're creating economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. That's we call it our true north. That's what gets us up to work every single day at LinkedIn. All right. Now our vision is followed by our mission. All right. Our mission there, similar thing. All right. This is our objective as a company. We're reaching our goals, our inspiration. All right. Our goal is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. All right, so that's just kind of like just to ground you as a company. That's what we were built upon, right? Our founders built this, years ago, and this is what we're trying to continue as we move forward. So that's LinkedIn just kind of as a general company, just kind of give you an idea. Now the question is like, so what? Like, why LinkedIn makes sense for you? What's the value? All right, and that can be pretty much summed up in a quick, little value proposition that we have, right? Connect to opportunity. I said before, your network is your net worth. All right, that's going to be a key thing you have to think about. It's who you know in this world. The Syracuse alumni base is very strong. All right, you want to leverage that when possible, when it makes sense. All right, now we also know, I'll tell you first, LinkedIn is not the end all be all solution, right? We're definitely a stepping stone to connect you to opportunity. All right, so we want to make sure you're leveraging all the power that lives within this platform. So just some quick stats, all right? I'll start from the left to the right. So globally, we have 706 million members worldwide. We're adding roughly about 2 members per second, all right? So the platform is growing tremendously. 50 million companies on the platform. Even in a global pandemic, there's still 11 million jobs posted on LinkedIn worldwide, right? Obviously, those numbers are down in this whole situation, but there's still opportunity out there. Skill sets, right? 36,000 skill sets on the platform, 90,000 plus schools on the platform. So the data shows, hey, the power of the platform is there and it's not going to stop. We're at a point now where we're just in tremendous growth as a platform and people are using it, particularly in this pandemic when we're all at home and we're on our phones, we're on our laptop a lot more. You're seeing a lot more usage of the LinkedIn platform itself. All right, so I'm going to shift gears and kind of talk about, your profile, what matters to you. Once again, your LinkedIn profile is not your resume. All right, don't look at it that way. Your LinkedIn profile is your digital portfolio. It's a way for you to be dynamic in how you present yourself. All right, your resume is pretty cut and dry. You're going to have that regardless. You're going to need a resume, but your LinkedIn profile needs to speak to your personality and your professional experience. All right, so the next few slides, we're going to talk about just some key steps to make sure your profile is, up to speed, and it's just some tips and tricks to kind of set you apart from others on the platform as well. So first things first, this probably sounds so simple. Have a picture. All right, I can't tell you enough. I see profiles on LinkedIn that do not have a picture. You can see the stats right there. More connection requests, more profile views, more messages, just having a simple picture. And it doesn't need to be a professional headshot either. In this day and age, when we have iPhones, smartphones, our cameras are pretty good. All you need is good lighting, probably a good filter, and you're all set. All right, so your picture needs to speak volumes of you as a person, as an individual. It needs to be very inviting. Right? Once again, the goal is to yield those connection requests, those profile views, those messages from recruiters, whatever it might be. Now, the next most important thing after this, I would say, is your industry. All right, so as you're on your profile, make sure your industry is updated. The reason why this is important, this is actually the top way people find others to connect on the network, is just industry similarities. All right, so you'll see more profile views, you'll see yourself appear in a lot more searches because recruiters are using this feature to look for people. When someone says they want experience from someone that's in consulting, they go to the industry tab, right? That's on your profile. So that needs to be updated. I tell people all the time, I update my LinkedIn profile as much as possible because I don't know when someone's gonna look at my profile. Could be on a Monday, could be on a Wednesday, could be the end of the month. So when something changes, my first notion, and obviously I work at LinkedIn, but I need to update my profile, make sure it's up to speed. All right. Now the next part, step 3, this is very important. I'll spend a little bit of time here. Your summary. All right, so this is your elevator pitch. Even before COVID, and particularly now with COVID, you don't have a lot of face-to-face interaction, right? So your summary is going to speak to you as an individual without you being in the room. So if you're not in the room and someone's looking at your profile, what does it say about you? All right, keep it short, keep it sweet. Doesn't need to list all of your accomplishments. Should list some key things about your experience, some unique talents you might have. Just once again, shows your personality, but don't make it a whole essay. All right, it needs to be enough where someone can read through it, understand more about you, but then also be compelled to learn more about you as well. All right, so that's all kind of part of the game with the summary. You want to make sure that it's showing enough about you as an individual, but not giving them all the tools, because you have a whole nother section after that, which is your experience, right? So you can talk about your experience and say, hey, these are the details about what I've done at said company. All right, this is your chance to go through and say, I've done all these accomplishments at these different companies. Now I'm gonna say this again, this is not a resume, all right? I did this when I first started with LinkedIn, actually before I started with LinkedIn. I just copied and pasted my bullet points from my resume to my LinkedIn profile. You do not want to do that. You want to have your LinkedIn profile read like a book. All right. So you want like you're telling a story, essentially. Someone's reading your profile. They're not reading your resume. They're reading something about you. This is once again your professional brand on a network. So let it be something that they're reading like a novel. Now, one thing I'll give advice on for people that have companies that are smaller companies that may not be as known, like a startup, as you talk about your work experience, make sure you give a little blurb about what the company does, right? Don't assume everyone's just going to kind of click on it and do some research. Give a little bit of color about what the company's based for, or where they're based out of, what they sell, whatever they produce, whatever it might be, and then talk about what you accomplished at the company as well. All right. And once again, having things up to date, right? People don't want to see a job you had 10 years ago and you haven't worked there in 10 years, right? So you want to make sure your profile, especially this information, is up to date, particularly for recruiters, right? They're going to ask questions about, is there a gap? What are you doing now? What did you do 5 years ago? So just make sure this section is definitely up to date. All right, now the next thing, and I think a lot of people don't do this a lot, is adding media, right? You can add media to your profile. That's something a resume cannot do. So you can add videos, you can add a PowerPoint, and it doesn't have to be your content. When I say adding videos and PowerPoint, it can be branded content from your company. So in my prior life, prior to LinkedIn, I worked in automotive. I worked for Fiat Chrysler for or about 8 years. And I worked on a couple different brands. So I worked with the Jeep brand, worked with the Dodge brand. I could simply just grab content from those brands and talk about cars that I worked on. I worked in supply chain, right? So once again, it's not my content, but it speaks to something that I worked on at the company. So you don't need to be creative and think of your own PowerPoint or something that you don't want to post. This can be simple company content that speaks to the work that you've done for them ultimately. All right. And then for recent grads, and even, you know, grads people who've been out of school for a while, add your volunteer experience. All right. That's something as well that your volunteer experience often equates to your work experience. All right. A lot of employers look at that. It shows diversity and how you're helping the community outside of your 9-to-5 job. All right. It just shows that it's more of your professional identity. It makes you more well-rounded as well. Step 7, skills and endorsements. All right. Now your skills, these are up to you. You tell the system what you're good at. If it's Microsoft Office, if it's data analysis, if it's supply chain, whatever it might be, click those skills in there. Because what you want your network to endorse you, to say, yes, you're great at that. I can vouch for him or her in that area. All right. That's going to show more credibility to you as well as you're looking for jobs, as people look at your profile. All right. They're going to look at your job title and say, okay, does that equate to this same skill set, to this opportunity? All right. Once again, your profile is a constant elevator pitch. It's a constant motion of, this is me as a person, as a professional. Put it on full display. All right. Do not be bashful. Put in all your skill sets for sure. Now, one thing I've seen recently with the pandemic going on and the unfortunate things with layoffs and cutbacks from a lot of companies are recommendations. This is another way to establish credibility. You know, asking a prior colleague or a former manager or a professor to write a recommendation for you, right? That's going to, once again, add to your credibility as a professional on this network, that someone's willing to put their name, their title on the line for you. All right. So as you request recommendations, also give recommendations. All right. Have that reciprocity where you're giving to others what you want back. And then I'll kind of pause here for a second, but talk about updating your profile consistently, right? Location matters. Education matters. Publication, accomplishments. When I got my MBA, when I finished it a couple months ago, 24 hours later, you're for sure that my page said MBA behind my name and Syracuse alum. All right, that's the first thing I did. Because like I said, I don't know who's looking at my profile, when, where, or how. So I want to make sure they have the most latest and greatest information. All right, so that's it for just the profile tips. All right, they seem simple, but oftentimes people will update LinkedIn in January and forget about it after the fact, right? So this, especially in this day and age, you want to consistently update this thing. I'm not saying do it every day, but if you can make a cadence in your calendar once a week, every other week, if something changes, that's worth your time. Make sure your LinkedIn profile reflects that as well. All right, now a step beyond that, I want to talk about, I call it your thought leadership, right? Your voice on LinkedIn. I'm sure many of you have been on LinkedIn for years. You feel like you're using the platform to some ability, but how are you displaying your voice on the platform to your network and even beyond your network? All right, so there's 2 ways to do that, right? The first way is just general updates, right? That's either, sharing a link, sharing an article, a quote, an image, just in your feed, or actually publishing some content, right? So actually writing a long form post about a topic that interests you, that may also interest your network as well. All right. So in terms of, just some best practices with using updates, I'll start with the first one. Have your authentic voice. LinkedIn is your professional brand. Own your voice. All right. We're all unique. We're all diverse in our own ways. Be authentic in your approach as much as possible. Post frequently. I don't post every day. I actually probably post every other week, maybe, up to your comfort level. But you want to be posting, because what this does is it's going to expand your network. As you post, think about this. There's an algorithm behind the scenes in LinkedIn if you post something, I like your post. Now my network will see your post. All right. So let's just think about that exponential visibility you get by me liking your post. Right. And then once again, someone from my network likes that post and it just goes all over the place. So posting frequently gets your name, gets your network out there to different networks that you might not be aware of. All right, have conversations. I think people are somewhat scared sometimes to put comments on LinkedIn posts. Even if it's an influencer, even if it's Bill Gates, you can put a comment on his post. People are going to see it. They may like it, right? Once again, putting your brand out there. It's a simple act to do. All right, putting media out there, talked about that already, just having media to increase engagement. We live in a day and age where people love TikTok, people love Snapchat, they love Instagram. For some reason, like looking at short videos is like the thing people do nowadays. So that's a good way to increase your engagement on the LinkedIn platform as well, is having that rich media. And the last one is, I say, create opportunity for reciprocity, right? You want to make sure you're putting out content that's going to benefit your network, all right? It's not just clickbait. It's actually things that are actually going to benefit someone in a different job, in a different place, whatever it might be, that they can leverage for their professional network, whatever, okay? Now on the flip side, publishing on LinkedIn, all right? This is when you actually write a long form post about a topic that you want to share with your network, right? It becomes part of your profile forever, right? It's going to be tied to your profile, goes to your network. And once again, I said that algorithm behind the scenes, right? If someone likes your post, it goes to their network and it just exponentially grows dramatically. Next thing you know, your post is trending on LinkedIn, all right? And you probably have connection requests out of the roof. So definitely publish on LinkedIn. The best practices are very similar to what we just talked about, right? The first one, a good headline, right? And I'm not talking about clickbait. I'm talking about a headline that's going to actually appeal to your professional network. All right, LinkedIn at the end of the day is still a professional network. I don't like to say this often, but we're not here to stir up a lot of controversial things. It's there to help enable other people and enable your network. Okay, having a photo, having pictures, media stands out. Once again, having your authentic voice, know your audience. All right, know who you're reaching out to. All right, know your network and who might be even beyond that. And the last one, this is important, article length. All right, so when you write these posts on LinkedIn, a good sweet spot is 600 to 1,000 words. All right, it's not too small, it's not too long. The attention span of an adult nowadays is not the longest, so you want to have a good medium length. So I said 600 to 1,000 words at most if you are publishing articles. And the good thing, you can track your progress, right? So as you're looking through this, you can see who's looking at your post, where it's being shared, whether it's by location, by industry. So you can see your outreach and what it does for you. All right, this is all real-time information. And once again, this is establishing your brand to other people that you may have never met before without this professional platform. Now, one thing I want to talk about is, the last few slides is gaining some knowledge and insights. All right, follow companies. All right, follow industries. If you're into cars, if you're into tech, especially for recent grads or even people looking in the job market, if you're looking at a certain industry, follow those top companies. What are they talking about? What are they posting? You want to be knowledgeable of what's going on in the industry so you can speak to that if you do get a call from a recruiter or you do meet someone at the company, right? You can have an educated dialogue with them as well. And I say this, follow influencers. And when I say influencer, I'm not talking about a TikTok person or someone on Snapchat that posts a funny video. I'm talking about people who are thought leaders, right? People who are putting content out there that's enabling their professional network with some great knowledge. All right, so follow those influencers on LinkedIn. They typically post a lot of great content. And once again, you can like their posts, add comments. You'll truly learn a lot from a lot of people on LinkedIn. I can say that myself. And then the last couple of slides, and I'll turn it back to Chris after this. Not everyone has LinkedIn Premium, all right? I'm not here to sell anyone LinkedIn Premium. If it makes sense for you, by all means, go for it. Even if you don't have LinkedIn Premium, there are still a lot of search filters that you can use to help, see help expand your potential network ultimately. So whether it's location, whether it's industry, those things aren't excluded from regular LinkedIn.com. All right, so leverage those filters to help find people within your network, find colleagues, find alumni in the area, things like that, and just search at scale. Make it easy on yourself. All right, and then also just customize your feed. All right, I look at my feed sometimes and it's just a lot of noise. Just go and say, hey, improve my feed. Take this out. I don't want to see this type of stuff on my feed. You want to see relevant content? Tell the system that. All right. Once again, because you want to educate yourself as much as possible on subjects, on content, news going on, so you're up to date as much as possible. All right. So, Chris, I think I'm at my time. Hopefully, I didn't go too fast for everybody, but any questions out there, please toss them at me.
Great stuff. And there is actually a question that came in on the chat, and it's for someone in media. For your description, should you elaborate on some of the specific things that you've maybe worked on as you're putting some information in your description? How specific should you get?
Yes. So I would say getting specific is good for your experience section. The description section, I tell people be very unique about it. So look at my LinkedIn profile. My job title is a relationship manager, but my LinkedIn header says empowering companies to increase revenue, right? That's a thought-provoking thing. Because someone's gonna ask the question, what does that even mean, right? You're talking about revenue and empowering a company. Like, what does that mean? I'm inviting you to my profile. I'm kind of giving you this little carrot to say, hey, what does he really do at LinkedIn? And then that's how I get you. So it's like the little bait and switch, I like to call it.
So don't give away too much. Give away enough to make them want to come for more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Put all the details in your experience, but just bait them into coming into your profile.
Good stuff. I sent you a connection request while you were talking, so I'm following your directions.
Yeah, perfect. And I would say this, Jade, who did this entire program, Jade reached out to me on LinkedIn, right? Jade and I did the MBA program together. Never met him through the program, right? We were doing the online program, but he found a way to say, hey, there's a Syracuse alum that works at LinkedIn that's in New York City. So he leveraged the platform, and here I am today. So thankful for this connection. And like I said, once again, everyone leverage LinkedIn as much as possible. It's free. Why not?
Good stuff. All right, Chris, thank you. And again, if you have any questions, I've got a question. I'll save it for a little bit later when we do a little Q&A session. But if you do have questions, please do put them in the chat. I see another one here about searching and filters and that kind of thing in terms of job listings. So think on that, and we'll circle back to that in a little while, because I do want to bring in Lisa Fontanelli now to say a few words as well. She has had a tremendous career. She continues to be so involved at Syracuse University. And I know that she's had a rough week because she lives in New Jersey. So Lisa, thank you for taking the time and being a part of this program tonight.
Oh, Chris, you're so kind, and thanks to everyone for making the time to be together and connecting with our Orange family in these difficult days for so many reasons. And I hope you're all safe and healthy and well, and that we continue to support each other in this way. I'm listening to Chris's presentation and realizing I have a lot of work to do on my LinkedIn profile. But it was enough actually when Jade and I connected. This is going to be like, 3 steps to Jade, right, for everyone. But Jade and I met at an event, and he found me on LinkedIn, and, we've been communicating and connected to each other ever since. And it's been such a blessing to me to know Jade and to see him learn and grow and develop. And it's one of the reasons that I love doing these types of events, to be connected to all of you. Chris mentioned that I'm involved at the university, but I think probably like a lot of alums, and you can see I not only graduated a long time ago, well into the last century, but I started my career, I was Newhouse management dual. It wasn't Whitman yet when I was at Syracuse. And I really thought I was going to be a media executive. I ended up discovering that I couldn't afford to take the entry-level jobs in media, and I went to Wall Street And 30 years later, I retired as a partner at Goldman Sachs. I ran the research division there, was a partner for my last 10 years at Goldman Sachs for 25 years. And one of the things I wanted to share with you about that journey was just how many crises I lived through, and we experienced, not even personal, just in a local and in a macro context over the 30-year period. And never underestimate your grit and resilience. These are dark days, and these are difficult days. But what you learn and what you gain from getting to the other side of an experience like the one we're all going through now, in both a social justice context and in a public health context and in an economic context, the opportunity for learning here is great. And the opportunity for learning not just about the world, but to do a lot of the things that will help you to differentiate yourself, to Chris Green's point, to make sure that you know who you are and that you present yourself in a narrative that makes you come to life, and that really helps you to root yourself, not just in what you want to do, but who you want to be. And so, I scraped and clawed, because I didn't, I had a business degree in addition to the media communications degree, but I didn't really pay too close attention in accounting or financial statement analysis. And so I kind of learned on the job when I was starting out. I had an opportunity to work with incredibly smart people throughout my career. And when I started as an equity analyst and ended up running the research division for Goldman, 1,000 people on the ground in 20 countries. And so had this amazing experience to really understand what it means to run a business, and to build businesses internationally, but also to shape a business in a world where technology was changing a lot. And so when I graduated, there was no LinkedIn, actually, there was no internet. We joke that precursor to cut and paste, the news stories used to come out on a ticker tape, and it was some guy's job to sit in a room and read the paper tape. And if something came out and he knew you were interested in something, he'd call you, and you'd run down there with your scissors and your Scotch tape, because you needed to cut the story out of the paper roll, photocopy it, and then tape it back into the roll in case anybody else was looking for it. Okay, that's in my lifetime, right? I know, I see, for those of you who have cameras on, it's hard to believe, right? And communications technology changed so much over the course of my career, but it also changed the value proposition, because speed, which is how people used to value information previously. Could you be the first one to know something? Could you call your first clients first? Actually, if you do that now, your best clients first kind of thing, you go to jail. But it's important, I think, for you to understand that with everything that comes at you in communications technology and all of the channels that get jammed, the thing that you really want to do to be able to make yourself stand out, right, is to step back from it, right? And to not be so reactive to it, but to be really introspective and really proactive and really selective about creating your own narrative and putting yourself forward. So today, I take a lot of the skills that I learned over 30 plus years on Wall Street, and I sit on nonprofit boards. I'm not doing any corporate board work, but I have a great advantage at Syracuse, the great privilege to not only be a trustee, but to also chair the Whitman Advisory Council. And volunteer leadership at Syracuse University is one of the best things that ever happened to me, and I think gives you such a great way to hone and leverage your skills, to build your network, and to stay close to to the Orange family in a way that propels the university forward. And there are so many amazing, wonderful things that are happening at the university. And at the same time, the university leadership is doing such an incredible like Herculean job of trying to reopen residential life on campus, and to make sure that we're doing it in the fairest and most equitable way possible, with safety first. And so, being able to, I chair the finance committee, surprise, on the board of trustees. It's not very creative in terms of my assignment, but it has given me a really great opportunity to know how well managed the university is, and how it is a shining example of the one thing that I want you all to really keep in mind through these days, wherever you are on your path and whatever you're navigating, which is that there is tons of opportunity out there, right? That there are always ways for you to learn and grow and find a place where the tools that you have in your kit are of service to someone else. And because you're learning, that connection that you make, whether it's in person or online, will also be of service to you. And so, what you put in, you'll get back. And, I look forward to getting all of your LinkedIn requests to connect. I've gotten a few while Chris was talking, so I know you're out there. Don't hesitate. If I can be helpful in any way, I am your orange sister in service.
Lisa, thank you. That's some great advice. And some of the advice really struck me as difficult, that idea to step back and not be so fast to react, because we live in a world where that's what everyone wants to do, is just rush to say something and do something and be first to react. So that's tricky.
It is. It takes discipline for sure, but I think it is the key to really finding a way to differentiate yourself.
Yeah. And also for giving us advice that will keep us out of jail. That's always also very, very helpful. So we appreciate that.
I'm very well compliance trained.
We like that. We like that. And one last thing I have to say is, you use the word grit. And I know that this week, in speaking to university leadership, the chancellor used the word grit and talked about the grit and grace that the university has had to use to try to go through this spring into summer and be ready for fall. So it truly is a characteristic that we share in our Orange family.
We do indeed.
So thank you, Lisa. I want to bring in Amanda quick now, who I actually spent a Zoom evening with on Tuesday, speaking with some of the incoming and transfer students for one of our virtual new student send-offs, and she had some great advice for them, and I'm sure that she has great advice for our audience here tonight too. So, Amanda, tell us a little about your Syracuse journey and your professional journey.
Okay, so I'm Amanda Quick. I am originally from Kansas City, but I live in New York City now. I graduated from Newhouse in 2014 with a degree in broadcast and digital journalism, and then from the iSchool in 2016 with a master's in information management. And I think one of the things that, Lisa mentioned that really stuck with me was that, things are always sort of changing, and you have to be ready to iterate. So, I kind of went into Syracuse thinking that, I was going to be in the media business as well, wanted to be an on-air reporter specifically for sports. But, as I got closer to senior year, I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do, and went kind of more so the business and the consulting route. So now I work at KPMG. I've been there for the last 4 years as a senior associate in their consulting business. And I have been able to take some of the skills that I've learned in Newhouse and use those to better work with clients. One of the ways that I've been able to really network and meet more alumni at Syracuse is being part of the Generation Orange Leadership Committee. So it's basically a young alumni board, and we really focus on students and alumni that have graduated in the past 10 or 15 years, but obviously always open to meet, people from any class. I think for me, just two pieces of advice that I got as I was, looking for a job and still talking to different people is one that kind of relates to what Chris had to say. I think during his presentation, he said, you should always be updating your LinkedIn profile. So, and I think just to add on to that is, one thing you should always be doing is networking, even if you're not looking for a job. I think it's a lot harder to reach out to someone, when you're like, hey, I saw this job, can you refer me? Instead of saying, hey, we've already had this amazing relationship, can you maybe take a look at my resume and potentially refer me? And then I would also say, every relationship is mutual. So, as you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, you can always see too, is there a way that you can help them or introduce them to someone?
Amanda, thank you. There are a few questions in the chat. They are sort of LinkedIn specific. I want to throw one out there because I did notice something that that you all kind of talked about, and that's shifting directions in terms of what you went to college for and then where your professional career took you, and leaning into the skill set that you have. Look, I'm a broadcast journalism major. I worked in television for 20 years. I work in higher ed now. Yeah, I get to do stuff like this once in a while, and there's communications, but I found where my skill set, my education, my experience led me to other career opportunities. So if each of you could just spend a few seconds talking about that. Amanda, you're still on my screen, so I'll ask you to do that first.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, started off with the broadcast route and now, working for a Big Four consulting firm. So, as I mentioned, I think I was able to take the skills with writing, putting together a story, and, using that when we work with clients. I think the other thing is, you don't necessarily have to always go to school to get that new skill set. One thing that I've actually recently discovered was the LinkedIn Learning, and they have amazing courses, whether it's project management, financial management, or something that, you want to just brush up on, whether it's a course or just a learning path. So I'd say, if you are making that transition or you're not sure, hey, I was a history or English major and I want to go into a different field, there are ways to show that you have certifications or other, education that pertains to what you're interested in to kind of get you to that next job.
And Lisa, you also talked about learning on the job, and that's something that a lot of us have had to do. It can be really scary to do, though. So what advice do you have for that?
It can be really scary because you want to excel at the job that you're doing while you're also investing in learning something new. And so you kind of have to be a sponge, and it's a lot easier today to find ways, as Amanda said, to do online learning, to seek out people who have experience that you'd like to learn from, but sometimes there's almost too much of it, and so trying to find ways to filter that out, I think, can really start with making connections to people who are doing the thing you think you're interested in, right? And then taking their advice and their guidance on, what is the best way to learn securities valuation? What is the best way, right, to learn whatever the skill is that you're trying to develop. But I wanted to add also, because I think, Chris, this for sure in your transition, and Amanda just mentioned it as well, the importance of story. And, I was a financial services executive, but the reason I was a good financial services executive is because I could create narrative, because I could tell a story, because people learn better and connect better to you and the message if it's packaged in story. And there's so much of my experience at Newhouse that really, I think, made me a better finance executive, if that even makes sense. And so I think that your LinkedIn profile is one way that you're creating a story, but you really, in every communication that you're having, need to be thinking about what is it that you actually want your audience, whether it's one person or a group of people, to take away from what you're saying, and then craft your story so that you're not wasting a lot of sentences and words to get to that point.
I want to bottle that information up. That storytelling is so important, and it serves you well no matter what it is you choose to do, and thinking about who your audience is. All right, let's get to the question here in the chat from Chris about how to best use the search and the filters for job listings. He wonders if it's by your current previous title, your industry, something else. So Chris, what can you say to that?
I definitely recommend, great question, lead with industry. All right, that seems to be one of the top features people look for on LinkedIn, because it's universal, right? We can say if you're in tech, if you're in pharmaceutical, that's not going to be too much of a change across different companies. In terms of job title, once again, LinkedIn is all user-generated information. So people can get very unique and creative with their job titles. So I tell people, be cautious of it. Look at people's summaries, but I say lean on the industry more than anything else, because that's going to be pretty consistent across the board.
Good advice. In terms of content, you talked about posting content, sharing content, publishing content. Eric wants to know if book reviews of business books are potentially good things. And I would expand on that, because creating content and using the advice that Lisa and Amanda just gave, talking about storytelling and all of that, that can be a really difficult thing. If you don't feel completely comfortable, you can think, well, what does somebody really want to hear? What do I really know about? So what's your advice in terms of starting to get over that difficult hump?
Yeah, that's the first step. So take a step back and figure out, what's the narrative? What am I trying to convey to my audience? And Lisa mentioned, like, you control the narrative, right? Your LinkedIn profile is your profile. So what others see, what others read, you control that completely. In terms of book recommendations, I would do it, right? If someone in your network wants to learn something and you can provide them a quick summary or a recommendation on a book, that adds credibility to your knowledge, right? You've become a resource now of like, oh, okay, they know something about this book or this industry or this subject. So it just adds to your net worth on the network, I would say.
Definitely good advice. In terms of your network, how wide do you want to cast that net? Is there such a thing as bringing in too many connections, or is it safe to just say, oh, I don't know who this person is, but they seem somewhat relevant? I guess I'll say yes.
So I'll give this advice. Don't go out and add every SU alum, right? Because one thing I'll tell you, LinkedIn.
There are a lot of us. How about that? That's one reason not to.
Yeah, there's a lot of us, but LinkedIn has an algorithm where if you send out a bunch of requests and they just sit there idle or they get denied, we'll actually suspend your profile, right? Because we might flag that as spam. So what we don't want to happen is you're just sending out connection requests 100 per day, because that's not realistic, right? That's not real networking. So you need to find the commonality. So obviously we're all alum of Syracuse, but what about industry? What about location? It needs to be more than just the college, the college commonality. It needs to be a little bit more than that. So I would say, err on the side of caution. If you try to connect with a Syracuse alum that lives in California, that's in an industry that you have you don't have interest into, you just think, oh, they have a cool profile, probably not the best person to reach out to, because you want to make sure your LinkedIn, your network is still worthy of something, right? It's not going to just be 10,000 people who you don't know. That's not you don't want that to happen.
Chris, one of the features that I love about LinkedIn is it tells you what people were searching for when they found you. And so if you I get hits all the time because my profile says retired, and I don't feel retired, but I am technically, I guess. But it's funny that you can reshape your profile if the things that you're getting hits on aren't the things that you really wanted to lead with, and it tells you that, which is actually pretty cool.
Absolutely. Once again, you're controlling the narrative. I mean, truly, you control your career path. You can redefine it. So for me in particular, I started in supply chain. I'm in sales now, right? Yeah. Once again, change the narrative. I was more operational based, problem solving. Now I'm more client facing. Just change your narrative and you find your career path and you just make it happen.
One of the things that came up in some of the new student send-off events that we did in this earlier in this week that Amanda was part of was the idea of doing your homework before you reach out to someone, and the importance of making sure that you've got at least some pretty good background on the person that you want to connect with. Amanda, I think that came up during one of the sessions that you were part of. So if you want to address that a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a great point. I think most of us being from Syracuse, when someone else from Syracuse reaches out, we're definitely excited to speak as well. But I think, like Chris said, always just doing your research is super important. The story that I shared was I was with another Syracuse alum who also works at KPMG. Someone had reached out to her and was just kind of like, hey, can we set up some time to chat? I'd love to learn about Deloitte. And didn't leave a great taste in your mouth. So it's just kind of like, I think people are always willing to chat, but make sure it's not just, as Chris and as Lisa have said, it's not just like, oh, I see someone from Syracuse, I want to talk to them. Really make sure you understand your background, have a list of questions ready that you're going to ask, and, talk to them about how they've grown or plan to expand just in the field.
The Syracuse network is strong. The Orange family wants to talk to each other, but we also have a very high bar for each other, right? We have high expectations, and we do hope that you do some homework. Great advice, really important information to be sharing. Anybody, we don't have much time left. I want to, obviously get you out of Zoom if you're ready to disconnect for the day. But I do want to give you an opportunity to ask any other questions you may have, because these are great resources, and that's really what it's all about. It's about using the resources. Lisa, let me ask you the question that I know can be a tricky thing. And obviously things like LinkedIn do make it easier, but it can be intimidating for someone to reach out to a total stranger. Yeah. So in addition to doing homework, is there any other advice that you would give in terms of taking that step and trying to make that connection?
So, I think it's important to remember that you do have something to give, like that you're not just getting, right? And I think some of the suggestions that you've already gotten in this presentation and this discussion are keys to being able to connect with integrity and connect with like relevance and substance, right? You bring something to the table, like you to Amanda's point, right? If you just ask a general question, you went to Syracuse, can I have a coffee? It doesn't really give the person that you're asking any guidance on what they could possibly even have to share with you that might be of value to you. So, use your own time well, but use their time well also. I think that hurdle, this is the question, Chris, often comes to me in the vein of like, what would you tell your younger self, right? I think there is no reason to be afraid to ask the question, right? There should be no impediment to throwing the question out there, because the only thing that somebody can say is no, right? Or they ignore you. And so guess what? GPS, recalculating, pivot, do your thing and ask somebody else, right? I mean, there, as we've all said here, there are lots of us, right? And so, one person who doesn't answer your question doesn't mean no one's going to answer your question. Keep asking and ask over and over.
I love what you just said about keeping in mind what you have to offer as well. It's why I actually hate the word networking. It feels sleazy to me. I like the idea of building a relationship and having it be a two-way street. Maybe the person, because I know people who've reached out to me in the past, I've learned from them. Yeah. And so maybe there is a two-way street. I think it's important.
Oh, everybody's got something to offer. I can't tell you how many times people ask me questions that made me think about something, that made me smarter about something. And I'm, incredibly grateful for that.
Absolutely. Jade has a story to share about LinkedIn, and this is it. This is what it's all about. It's about these real life stories. This is why we're doing this.
So this is very quick. I know we're after 8, but I met Lisa at a Syracuse event, and I found her on LinkedIn. Lisa and I had a conversation at the event that wasn't so much about Syracuse, but somehow we started talking about nonprofits, and she started talking about the Food Bank of NYC, and I mentioned that I love nonprofits. I volunteer a lot. So when we had our first conversation over the phone and we reconnected, we spoke on 3 different topics. We spoke on my current employment, we spoke on where I want to be, then we spoke about nonprofits. She then connected me with someone named Dwayne Kinnan. Dwayne Kinnan is from Brooklyn, a Syracuse grad as well, and she said he was the president of the Boys and Girls Club out in Syracuse. I reached out to Dwayne on LinkedIn. Dwayne and I met, and I started then working with Dwayne at the Boys and Girls Club. So it's then from meeting Dwayne, I met Kenneth Farrell, who is actually on the board of the Boys and Girls Club. And now him and I work together, and now we do work with the Madison Square Boys and Girls Club of New York City. So it's what you find within LinkedIn, and something that Lisa said, it's no. When people tell me no, because I ask a lot or I speak a lot, it's always a new opportunity for me, right? That's how I look at it. No, it's okay. As Lisa said, may not be the only person. It may not be the right time. So don't take it personal, right? You have to understand what things that person is going through, and kind of step back and reach back again, understand that things are busy, especially during times like now. And what just a bit different from Chris and Amanda and Lisa is that I work in healthcare IT. I've worked in healthcare IT going on 9 years. So getting my MBA degree, I got an MBA degree from Whitman in entrepreneurship. I love business. My degree and my profession for 9 years don't really go hand in hand in my concentration. What goes hand in hand in my concentration is actually working with the Boys and Girls Club and that. So it's kind of all come in a sense, weirdly full circle in, no, I'm not leaving NYU, but I'm able to use my degree, and with the connections from LinkedIn, I'm able to now kind of scratch that itch that I've always had for like business and creating and helping people out. So again, I think it's a great tool, and I just wanted to share that story to say, reach out, connect, and speak to people, because you never know, again, what they're going to say, right?
It's a great story. And it also talks about the exponential way that these things grow, and how they may take you in a different direction. And that's really what it's all about. And that's one of the wonderful things about, obviously, about this family. Look, I think so many of us have stories that say, well, if I hadn't met this person who introduced me to this person, I'd never be in the job I'm in today. And many, for us, those stories have a very strong orange thread. I know mine personally is that way. And I'm so thankful and so appreciative of it. So, and look, the first person in that thread was a friend, not someone I was ever thinking of networking with. It was just somebody who introduced me to somebody else, and then there happened to be opportunity. And that's really what it's all about. This has been great. We are just about up on time here. So if anybody has any last second questions you want to get in here, I want to give you guys like 20 seconds just to give some final words of advice to bring you out here. So Lisa, I'll start with you. Just kind of sum it all up for us, your 20-second elevator pitch.
You're stronger than you know. Difficulty is the best teacher. And you will emerge stronger on the other side of all of this that we're going through.
Awesome. Amanda?
I think it's kind of already been said, but I think the most important thing that I've experienced so far is, your most important thing is your relationship. So just continue to build them, strengthen them, maintain them. And I think the other thing that I've heard, and I don't know, Chris Green, if you can jump in and, confirm, is that, a lot of people say it's not always, if you're looking for that job, it's not that first degree connection that usually helps, kind of like what Chris Velarde was saying, but it's usually that third degree. It's like the friend of a friend of a friend that ends up helping. So yeah, just always be open to both new people and new opportunities.
Take us home, Chris Green.
Yeah, Amanda, you said relationships matter. I'll say this, you define your career path, you define your next step. It's all your narrative. At the end of the day, you control what people learn about you. So control the story, and the world is yours.
Awesome. Great advice. Thank you, everyone who was part of this. You guys were amazing rock stars, and we'll see everyone on LinkedIn. Obviously, take advantage of these resources, of these opportunities. You never know where they're going to lead. But as you heard, people are willing. They want to help. This is what it's all about. It makes everyone feel good and everyone better. So thanks for being here and being a part of this tonight. And we will record this. We have been recording this session, and we'll be posting it online so you can tell your friends who missed it that they can still get this advice. They won't get it quite as personally, but they'll get it. And again, we hope to see you down the road. Stay safe, everyone, and go Orange.